Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Well, good morning, Joplin and Lamar and Webb City and Carthage and Kansas and everybody out there in our viewing area. It's always good to have you back with us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown, where we can discuss issues that impact us as people of faith here in the greater Joplin area. So I'm always honored that you spend some of your Sunday morning with us here. My guest this morning is going to be Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, who's the president of the Minnie Hackney Community Service Center of Joplin. I always enjoy having Nanda around because she educates me. Because there's so many things about the history of Joplin that I am not aware of, and I'm always fascinated when I learn more. So she's going to be back to talk with us a little bit about what the Minnie Hackney Community Service Center does and what their history is, which I think will surprise many of you who are watching this morning. It's always, again, just good to have our eyes open and some awareness. So grab your cup of coffee, settle in, and we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Don't go away.
The whole purpose of screening is to catch people who have a significant smoking history early enough where we can do something about it and potentially improve the duration of life. The minimum recommendation for screening is 30-pack years. So usually people who've smoked more than 30-pack years are the ones that we're screening. If we start screening yearly with low-dose CT scans, we can reduce the risk of death from lung cancer by 20 to 25%. Stage 1, 2, and 3 cancers potentially can be cured. When it becomes stage 4, the possibility of cure falls significantly.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning here at Faith in Our Hometown. Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, it is always good to see you and always good to have a conversation with you. You're going to teach me a little bit more this morning, and I'm glad, because I think my own, and I'm going to use this word because it's really technically the right word, I'm ignorant of so much of our history here in the greater Joplin area. And I just am, and I've been here for over 13 years now, and I still discover things that I never knew that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And so, tell us a little bit about, first, refresh our viewers who haven't met you before, about who you are, how you're here in the Joplin area, what you do, and tell us a little bit about the Minnie Hackney Community Service Center, and especially even starting with its history of how it started, and then we can talk about what you're doing now.
Right. Well, of course, my name is Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks. I've been pretty much a lifelong resident of Joplin, and I, too, am always amazed at the things that I don't know about Joplin as well, so you're not alone there. I am the president of the Minnie Hackney Community Service Center, newly renamed. It originally started in 1946 as the Negro Service Council of Joplin. It was started by Marion Dial, who was the principal of Lincoln High School at that time, several other people. It was started as a place for blacks in the Joplin area to assemble. In 1946, basically segregated Joplin. There were not areas for blacks to assemble, except for churches. And so this was started as a place to have a forum for educational purposes, to have a recreational place in order to bring down juvenile delinquency, to also bring in national African American leaders to speak, and then also to help indigent persons. Those were the charter, that was the original charter, the purpose that was set up in 1946. And that is the charter that we still operate under right now. Okay. So later in the mid-60s, when the term Negro fell out of use, then they named it, they changed the name to the Community Service Center of Joplin. And that has been the name for the last however many years. This year we decided that we'd like to do something. We wanted to renovate the center, but we also wanted to reinvigorate the center. Right. And so we took a vote of our membership on what name, a name that we could change it to, a prominent person in the community. And there were several names put up, wonderful names put up. But the name that won was Minnie Hackney. And Miss Minnie Hackney was the She was the first executive director of the Community Service Center. She started in 1947, remained in that position until 1980.
Wow.
And when she finally
That's a long time.
When she finally retired, she was still working for $150 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a labor of love for her.
Well, sure.
And so we wanted to name it after her, in her honor, because she was such an integral part of keeping the Community Service Center alive, even during times where it was very questionable if it was going to be able to stay alive financially. So.
Right. Well, now, again, some of this history, and again, this was told to me by our producer, Riley Hartwell. He was talking about the fact that, back really at the time that the center was started and some of those things, that of course, you weren't, if you didn't have a home to be in, Black people were not welcome in Joplin after sundown. I mean, it was just one of those communities.
Yeah.
And that was so true across so many of southern Missouri, I mean, so many places. And Joplin was one of those places. So this was also like they had rooms where the folks that were in from out of town, those speakers that you were talking about, could stay and be taken care of, and then, join the hospitality with that while feeling safe and not running afoul of the powers that be at that point in time as well.
A movie that was recently out called The Green Book that basically tells how a person could travel, as a Black person could travel through the United States by use of this Green Book that told you where you could stop and eat and so on and so forth. The Negro Service Center, it was named the Negro Service Center at that time, was in the Green Book. And so it was a place that Blacks, when they would travel through Joplin, there weren't many places to eat, there weren't many places to sleep unless you were sleeping with a local Black family, if they would allow you to come into their home. But they would stop by the Community Service Center and get information on where they could eat or where they could sleep or any type of services. A lot of times if they went downtown and went shopping, we take it for granted that you could sit inside of a store and wait if you got tired or whatever. Back then, it was not welcome for many Blacks to be able to sit down in a store. If they had to get something, they might go in and get that immediately and come right back out. They weren't allowed to, rest or sit on a park bench. And so this was the place that they could go and actually rest during the day if they were downtown, or, as you say, take refuge at night if you were traveling through Joplin.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, you don't think about that. I mean, fortunately, we're far enough away from it that I just don't have any, memories of those times. Although, you're talking about the Negro Service Center. I mean, that was what my mom taught me as a kid. I'm 58, so my mom taught me as a kid. Well, that's the polite way, to refer to someone who's Black. And then, of course, shortly after that, it was just like, no, we're not saying that anymore either. Now we're just saying Black. So it's like, and again, we just got so much to do in terms of trying to figure out how to be comfortable with each other and be loving and respectful, and how do we do all that?
Right.
And again, if we don't hear some of this history about the way that happened, and we don't watch the Green Book or those kinds of things, you just don't. I mean, kids won't understand it if we don't explain it, if we don't make it a part of their education to understand those differences and what we've come through, what we've been through.
Right, definitely, definitely. As a community and as a nation, which is one of the reasons that the community service centers began to struggle in 1970. When Joplin did finally desegregate in the 1960s, there was no need for it. And so they had to find another use for the center. At that time, then Blacks could go into pool halls, or they could go into restaurants, they could go into other places. And so Miss Minnie Hackney was very instrumental in trying to find other uses for it. And so in the late 70s, the Area Agency on Aging decided to start serving meals out of the community service center. They put in a kitchen, and they offered meals to elderly and people that are differently abled peoples. And so it became another hub for the community. People would come there every day at noon to,
have a meal and
That's
spend
right.
some time with some other people.
Right. And so through the 70s and 80s and 90s, that continued on. And then in 2009, that was when Area Agency on Aging kind of pulled out and they received their own building. And so once again, the center tried to find another way to be relevant. And it has struggled in the last several years. And so that's why we as new officers, we had a new election of officers. I took over as president in May, and we have a new treasurer and vice president and secretary. We've been working to get back to the original purpose of 1946 because we personally, as long ago as that was, we don't feel that that purpose has changed. It's still needed that we have a forum for educational purposes, that we have recreation for youth, that we have bring in national leaders from across the country. And even though this building was given to the Black community, it is a purpose for our entire community. Right. And that's one of the things that we really want everyone to know. This is for everyone. It took everyone to keep it alive all of this time. The very first board that ran the Community Service Center in 1946 was made up of 20 people, 10 white, 10 Black, working together. I would dare say that's the first desegregated board in Joplin. And it took all of them working together in order to get the Community Service Center off its feet and running at that time. So I think it's very important that this is all the community.
Yeah. So what kind of plans do you have as we move into the future?
Lots of plans. We are right now. We just had the inside completely repainted. Home Depot helped us with that, and we had a fraternity that George Washington Carver belonged to. They came from all parts of Missouri to come in and help repaint the facility, and so we will starting.
I worked with when I was over at Southeast. We had a chapter of Phi Beta Sigma.
Did you? Okay.
And we were the Phi Delts was the group that I did. So there were a lot of blue Phis in those days. So I'm just telling you that we had very good step shows and everything between the fraternity and the two fraternities and things like that. So some good. I was very happy to see them in the paper a few weeks ago.
Wonderful.
Doing the painting and everything. I thought that was great.
Yeah. So have you taken part in a step show, Father?
No. I judged them.
Okay.
I judged them, but I have not taken part in one. Although I did, at one point in time, I learned one of them just because they were doing it. Now I did not. I was not on the stage with them when they were doing it, so it would be too much of a stretch that I took part in a step show. But they were amazing things, and I mean, quite frankly, it was one of the best things that our chapter did. That I was the advisor. They inducted me as an adult over at Southeast Missouri State University.
Wonderful.
Because they wanted somebody to help them. So I did. But that was one of the best race uniting moments that we had on the campus every semester.
Yes.
When they would come into the step show together, because it was pretty amazing watching. The two fraternities. So the Phi Beta Sigma do one, and then Phi Delta do one, and then they do one together, and it was always amazing, just absolutely amazing. My guest this morning is Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, and we're going to be right back after a real quick break. So don't go away.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
So again, thanks for being with us this morning for Faith in Our Hometown. Again, my guest, Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, who is the new president of the Minnie Hackney Community Service Center Joplin's board. And so you're giving it new life.
Yes.
New life.
Yes.
So you had the painting done. You've given it a facelift. So now what are we going to do to live up to this charter that you want to see re-enlivened?
We are, starting next month, we're going to be having different activities for adults and youth. And one of the first things that we want to begin is we want to start a project of helping people that are re-entering the workforce with services to help them write resumes, have a place where they can learn life skills and how to do interviews, how to fill out applications. Some of the things that if you've been out of the workforce, be it by family life or incarceration or anything like that, that you may not have some of those skills. So that's one of the things that we would like to do. We brought it to our membership. This is what's kind of interesting about the Community Service Center. It's made up of members that pay a yearly fee to be members. We have a membership of individuals, we have a membership of civic organizations, and then a membership of churches. That has been the heart and soul of the Community Service Center from the beginning. 4 churches in Joplin have carried it in times of need. Handy Chapel, Shiloh Baptist, Unity Missionary Baptist, and Trinity Baptist. When the Community Service Center had no members, the churches were their members. That made up the membership there. And so each of the churches have different events there with their youth groups. The civic groups that meet there now are the NAACP and several other groups there. But so those meetings are happening during the month as well. And then for the membership, we will now be offering as many programs as we can possibly have people within our group that want to, take part in. It's all volunteer. There is no paid person, not even $100, $150 a month, as Miss Hackney was saying.
Wouldn't go very far, but it's,
No.
when you don't have much of a budget, it'll lead into it anyway.
Right,
so there you go.
Right. So,
Yeah.
And we've also found out in finding out about the organization, we've also found out a lot of history about the building itself. And one of the things that we're really trying to explore right now as well is Langston Hughes was in our building. On a trip that he made here in 1958, he actually came to that building and met with local Black leaders. And so we think that's a very, very important thing for the Joplin community. One of the most well-known Black authors,
Sure.
That was actually in our building, and we can document that. So we'll also be doing some programs with poetry and music, trying to get as many things as we can that not only talk about the history, but talk about future things within our community.
Yeah. And again, there are just some real gems. Whether we talk about whatever ethnic group, just had some shining gems that sparkled, in the world at different points in time. And any community can point to some of those, but to know that happened, and to know that he was here, and to know that that I'd love to know. Did he do a reading when he was here? Did he? What? That's fascinating to me. That he was here.
Yeah, he was contacted by a professor that had been doing some research and found out that he had Langston Hughes had an older brother that died as an infant and who was buried out at Fairview Cemetery.
Okay.
And Langston had said that his mother had kind of mentioned something in passing several times, but didn't really have it, so Langston came back for that reason. And while he was here, he was only here for about 4 hours, but he came down to the center there and spoke to several of the community there. And then he went and had a cocktail party was had for him in a lawyer's office here in town. And again, this was 1958. It was the first desegregated cocktail party that was had in Joplin. Kind of an interesting little piece of history there.
We've got some very interesting. Some very interesting history about cocktail parties in the state of Missouri. Like the first cocktail party took place in St. Louis. That was called a cocktail party. And to find that we had the first desegregated cocktail party here in Joplin is kind of cool.
Joplin, yeah.
I happen to be very in favor of cocktails myself, so it's a good thing.
Yes.
Oh, interesting, fascinating. And see, those are just fun things that, you know, but if you don't hear some of that, you don't get a chance to talk about it or know some of that. It's just like, you know, I just wonder, you know, and do our kids, I wonder, do my Catholic school kids know anything about Langston Hughes? I mean, do we, you know, the original roots here?
Yeah.
What went on and happened? I don't know, but it's
Well,
like amazing stuff. But I mean, those are the kinds of things that, again, if you guys do the homework and then share what you learn, it makes it easier for the rest of us to connect with it.
Yeah.
You know?
We believe he was such a huge person to have come from Joplin. You know that it's very, very important. And he, while he was here, found a fondness for Joplin. You know, there was a Globe reporter that kind of followed him around, and he found a fondness for Joplin in letters that he wrote later to the professor that brought him here. He said that Joplin had a warm spot in his heart. So I like to think that we could do something about that warm spot and let everybody know about Langston.
We should have our little warm spot, maybe toward Langston.
Yes.
You know, which would be kind of fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I just, you know, it's those kinds of things that I think that that bring us all together, because what happens is that when anybody takes one of their jewels and puts it out there and says, we want to share now some of these facets with the rest of the community, I think that that's part of what makes Joplin kind of special in its own right. You know, we're good when we do that stuff. You know, and it doesn't take much.
That's right.
You know, it's not like we have to, like, you know, drag people kicking and screaming. You know, around here, pretty much, if you got a party, if you just celebrate something, you know, most everybody's going to show up.
That's right.
So to take some of those gems and put them out there and let them sparkle for everybody, I think is an amazing thing. So yeah, that would be kind of fun. Well, it's going to be interesting to see as you guys go forward, you know, to see what else you can do. So what else and what are some of the other new ideas or fresh things that you may be trying over there?
Well, first of all, we've got a membership drive that starts next month, and we are looking for members. Our membership then meets one time a month, and the membership is the governing body of the center. So the members will decide what we do moving forward. And the last several meetings, we've been taking writing notes of what everyone wants to see happen. And so we're just going to work one by one to see, you know, to make sure that each one of those things happen within the center itself. And so we're looking for ideas. We're looking for connections with other civic groups. We're looking for other ways that people could use our building to do some things in the community as well. We see our history and our future in that building, and we know that the purpose behind that building is still relevant and needed right now in Joplin today. So
where is the building? So our folks don't even know where it is. So you go driving around, take a look, because it's, you know, kind of important.
Yes, it's at 110 South Main Street. It's directly across the street from, like, the Dollar General there. The building was given to the Black community to use as the Negro Service Center in the late 50s. Before that, the Negro Service Center had met in several different buildings right around there on Main Street. But this building was given by Claude and Verla Brown, members of our community, gave this building to the Black community to use as a Negro Service Center. And the building was built in 1881. We found out some wonderful information about the building itself. So it's probably one of the first buildings that was built down there in Murfreesburg, in that area. So
is that on the edge? Is that actually in is that where that part starts?
Yes.
I guess I never knew where the borders of Murfreesburg were.
Yeah.
I was reading a fascinating thing earlier today about some of the fights that went on between the sides of Joplin, you know, during the mining days. And I was like, I didn't know that either. So it was like, it's pretty interesting. Yeah. So interesting. So the building was a gift, and it was given specifically for that purpose.
Yes.
Now, were they white, black?
They were white. They were white. And they knew that they felt a need to make sure that there was a building that would always be, you know, able to be used at that time. again, the Negro Service Center had kind of been, the Negro Service Center started out of a need as a USO. So back in the 40s, early 40s, whenever black soldiers were stationed down at Camp Crowder, they didn't have a place to have dances. And so they started a black USO on Main Street, down on 2nd and Main. And that became such a big deal. The soldiers would come in from Crowder, and area blacks would gather and have dances. And so that's where the whole thing came from, the need for blacks to be able to have dances and recreational opportunities.
And be with each other, sure.
Yeah. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that there wasn't that before. You know, it's difficult. But it all happened because of people in the community seeing the need and helping to make that happen.
Well, Nanda, it is always just amazing having conversations with you. I learned so much. We're going to be right back to wrap up after this Mercy Minute, so don't go away.
Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S., and now we have an effective tool to screen for it. A low-dose CT uses a lower amount of radiation than a standard chest CT.
Breathe in.
Better detailed pictures than a chest x-ray of small abnormal areas of the lung. A person must be between 55 to 77 years old, asymptomatic, which means they don't have any symptoms such as coughing up blood, chronic cough, shortness of breath, unusual weight loss, or any other worrisome symptoms. They must also be a current smoker or have quit within the past 15 years, also must have a 30-pack year history or more, which equates to smoking 1 pack a day for 30 years, or 2 packs a day for 15 years. People generally avoid these scans, possibly due to fear of what could be found. Like many other cancers, if we can detect lung cancer early, it could be very treatable and life-saving.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning here at Faith in Our Hometown. Always fascinating when we start to dig into some of the history of this community. The history of Joplin just absolutely continues to astound me, even after living here 13 plus years now. I always learn something new. We've got a good community. We got a community that will mix with each other. It's just that our history didn't want some of that to happen. But now I think we got a community that does want it to happen, that we should learn from each other, and that we should take all the different pieces that make us the great mosaic that we are, and figure out ways to tap into those in ways that we can appreciate all of our history together and all the different pieces that brings. I'm grateful for the work of the Minnie Hackney Community Service Center at Joplin. Glad that they're still there after all these years and continue to make it happen and continue to be a strong and sharing part of our community. We wish them well in their renovation. We'll see you next week, Faith in Our Hometown. God bless. Happy Sunday.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.